Hi, my name is John, and this is my good buddy Andy. You're listening to the Packers Blitz podcast. This podcast is done by two diehard Packer fans who survived the dark times of the 1980s, Packers football, and live to talk about it. And this podcast is always dedicated to the greatest fans of all, Packer fans. Football is here. I've been watching preseason. Yeah, baby. I might be insane, but it's here and I'm watching it. So, Andy, take it away. Let's just get right into it. Take it away with some of the joint practices with the New England Patriots that Packers did.
Yeah, the Packers held a couple of joint practices in Green Bay this week with the New England Patriots. I have absolutely nothing to say about that, except I was scarred for life, seeing pictures of Bill Belichick in shorts showing up on my phone. So that's the only thing I wanted to mention about that. So, John, if there was anything of note that happened, I know there were a few fisticuffs and fights and stuff, but you get that anyway.
You get
football, whatever. But I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to mention on that. I don't think, to be quite honest, it was, it's great that they're doing that. I think with the 3 preseason games, it's very important to have that competition and to do those types of things. Sure. To make sure both teams are ready for the NFL season. So I think it's very worthwhile. That's just my opinion on it. But, they had the practices again with the Cincinnati Bengals the previous week. Yeah. And they had a couple practices this week with New England. So, but I didn't know what your thoughts were, and you had anything that you wanted to add on that. But
no, not really. There were just some fisticuffs. There were some pretty good plays. We will get into the game summary here in just a second here. But one thing, and I'm going to repeat this throughout the podcast, Packer Blitz fans, and my good buddy Andy, of course, just remember this. Embrace the consistent inconsistent. And you're going, what the hell are you talking about, John? Because what I'm seeing right now, and we'll talk about in the game, is Jordan Love, couple plays looks really good. Plays he doesn't look so good. And we'll talk about in the game too. So I kept on saying that as a mantra to myself, embrace the consistent inconsistent, because that's what's going to happen. There's nothing going to be like, going 10 for 10, throwing a dime into a bucket to Devontae Adams in the corner of the end zone and all this stuff. However, there was some plays. Andy, if you want to get to it, why don't you start out and get to the game summary, and then we can talk about some of those plays that resulted in the first touchdown that I thought was, give me a little bit of hope. So go ahead, Andy.
Definitely, John, definitely. Yeah, we should get right into it anyway. We got a lot to cover today. So, so basically the second preseason game was against the Patriots Saturday night, August 19th, I believe it was, at Lambeau Field. And it marked the first game since 1991 at Lambeau Field in which either Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers was not the starting quarterback under center for the Green Bay football team. Of course, it was Jordan Love's first start at Lambeau. So that's, kind of significant, isn't it, John?
Yeah, that is one of those trivia facts that later on when you're sitting in a sports bar that will come up and you'll go like, who was it?
Yeah, I'm just repeating, John, what they said on the broadcast, but I thought it was very interesting that they mentioned it. I was like, I'm going to use that. So, they did a great job, brought up some really interesting facts. So I was like,
yes,
make sure I repeat that one. So, unfortunately, we lost 21-17 at home on Saturday night. I really think overall we look like we were the better team. And we were actually driving at the time. So, I mean, who knows what would have happened. But the game was suspended with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It all happened after a New England player, cornerback Isaiah Bolden, was carted off the field, strapped to a gurney, a stretcher, with a head injury. The two head coaches agreed to call it a night at that point. So it just stopped. The game just stopped. And because, of course, the team that was winning at the time was the New England Patriots, they ended up winning 21-17 because the game just, again, stopped. So just like the joint practices this week, the Packers D-line was in the lap of New England's quarterbacks all night. It was the run defense that was allowing the Patriot running backs way too much yardage on the ground. The Packers secondary even got burned several times. And that's, to me, that's very disconcerting considering the Patriots do not have very good wide receivers. And the strength of the Packers defense is supposed to be its cornerbacks. And there are some plays from the cornerbacks and some plays from the safeties, actually, that weren't very good. A lot of bad angles, missed tackles, and whatnot on some of the TDs that the New England Patriots had. But we made their wide receivers look good, and they do not have good wide receivers. They just don't. So the Packers offense moved the ball all night, pretty much, even against an excellent New England defense playing all of its starters. At halftime, the offense for the Packers had over 250 yards, which is pretty darn good. So they were moving the ball. Special teams, John added this, was sloppy. And I would have to agree with that. A lot of penalties. There was that delay of game penalty I had forgotten about on an extra point. There were holding penalties. There was some bad coverage in the first half. There were a lot of dumb penalties. I added that. Just dumb penalties. I never, ever want to hear the words block in the back ever again.
Yeah.
And then John added, better get this corrected soon. And you're absolutely right, John. You can't be doing those type of stupid things.
No.
I did read an article today. This is off the subject, or kind of still on the subject, but off of it, that our special teams did make some initial tackles. They weren't missing tackles, but there were some really stupid plays here and there with all the penalties and whatnot. So, and I really don't think when our receiver Samori Toure was doing his run backs that they were always blocking very well for him, and Samori did the best he could considering.
Yeah.
So from the standpoint of us tackling, great, but blocking wasn't one of our strong suits. And it looked like Samari he did a really good job, I thought, of being aggressive and making a decision and going with it. And so that's what you have to do when you're a return person. So I thought he did a pretty good job. And most of the yard returns that he would have had got negated by the penalties. So it really didn't matter anyway. Right?
Unbelievable.
So, John, I don't know if you have anything to add on that part.
No, we can
the game summary.
We can get right into takeaways. Yeah, let's get right into game takeaways. Yeah. So I have more to add on that.
Yeah, first thing that I had was, right away on one of the first plays of the game, I think it was on third down or whatever it was, starting center Josh Myers needs to get his shite together. Another snap sails over the head of Jordan Love. And there is a backstory on that. I'll just add it in there. This is off the top of my head. But basically, he said that somebody jumped and hit him. So either hit the ball or hit his arm or something happened, and that caused him to sail it over Jordan Love's head. But so I guess there was an excuse for it, that he thought a penalty was going to be called, and it wasn't. So the Patriots D, of course, recovers it. It's way down in our side of the field. And and then basically the New England offense cashes in on it for a very short touchdown. I think it was Ramondre Stevenson, their really good running back, kind of plowed it in. We had a few penalties and whatever, but the thing was, you put the defense in a very bad spot right away. So and then the Packers defense again could not stop that running back we just talked about. Ramondre Stevenson is a stud. He has plenty of burst. He's a great player. But there were some missed tackles, 3 to 5 yards down the field. And he wasn't even touched half the time before he got
No.
to 3 to 5 yards. So basically,
Mm.
that's defense. That's AJ Hawk defense right there. So,
Ooh, AJ Hawk burn.
so the third thing, I really thought the offensive line for the Packers held up really well against a great New England front seven. They have a legit defense. Their offense may stink,
They do.
but they have a legit
Yeah.
defense, and they have for several years because it's Belichick. That's kind of his specialty.
It's Belichick. Yeah.
And so, it was truly dominant in the pass and the run game, and a really good effort from their offensive line, I thought. The fourth thing, I thought Jordan Love again to Romeo Dobbs. You're gonna hear that a lot, and so you're gonna see that connection being made quite a bit. And he threw a really good pass, couple really good passes to Romeo, and the key was Romeo caught them. And so, so you got to give your really good players, your good wide receivers, opportunity, and he did. Get them the ball, get the playmakers the ball. And then to name a few, well, actually a lot. Jaden Reed had a touchdown. Luke Musgrave, again, looks like a complete tight end. He started again. Tucker, he pretty much has to. We only have 3 tight ends left. Tucker Kraft, it seemed like he has really good hands. He caught a pass. Colby Wooden, he had a nice tackle for loss. Karl Brooks, well, you'll be hearing his name quite a bit. Pressure all the time. Lucas Van Ness made some hustle plays, set the edge. He was actually playing pretty good. There's a play where the running back was going to get around the corner. He came up from behind and caught him, and it came out of nowhere. So again, those hustle plays where he's not giving up on the play really makes you think that there's good things to come. And so all these rookies are, all these 2023 draft picks are making contributions. And John, there was a series in which Colby Wooden and Karl Brooks were playing side by side, in which they were totally obliterating the middle of the New England line. So it was good to see those two in tandem. And so they were kind of doing a lot of movement things where they were switching, and moving, and one guy would go one way, the other guy would come around. And so that was really good to see that they were playing really well as a tandem. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention, the sixth thing I wanted to mention was where there weren't a lot of penalties last week. And we'll talk about this some more, John. There were 9 penalties in the first half alone by the Packers. 3 on offense, 3 on defense, and 3 on special teams.
Spread it out.
And I know what you all are thinking. That's great balance. 3, 3, and 3. But that's not what we want. Penalties are no bueno. So John, did you have some other takeaways that you wanted to add in on?
Yes.
We already talked about
absolutely.
Yeah, we already talked about Karl Brooks. We can talk about him again.
We're talking about him again.
He looks like a player.
Agent.
He just does. He just looks like a defensive tackle.
Andy,
he just looks like a guy who's gonna wreak havoc.
Hear me out. I am his agent. Karl Brooks and me, baby. We're going places. We're gonna make some money. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
So Karl Brooks, my man. What did I tell you? I told you.
You did.
Packer Blitz fans, I'm telling you, look out for this guy. Now, okay, like everybody come to earth. Calm down, John. Ooh, take a breath. Yes, I get it. He's still a rookie. But when, Andy, rack your brain now, really rack your brain, okay? I know you're old. I'm old too. When have you seen a rookie in preseason like just obliterate people? Like just he's in the backfield. Like even if when he's given like 5, 6, 10 chances. I mean, not a lot of chances. I mean, think about it. And I was sitting there, I'll tell you mine first. If you come up with one, God love you. And I went, well, okay, kind of. And then I said, "No, he was a free agent. We got him. So no, we can't get." I was like, "A Pat, and I really could, I know some guys are out there who made a difference. Like we have the Gravedigger, and we had and Kenny Clark is still dominant. He kind of, maybe not as much as he used to be. What we hope he will
We had
be. Uh,
Santana Dotson.
Santana, but he was a free agent.
Oh,
I'm talking about draft choices.
okay.
Draft
Draft
choices,
choices.
defensive line in the past, I'm going to say 10 years. That's been just, you throw him in here in any play, that guy's in the backfield, right?
Yeah.
Hard to think of one. We'll think of one, but he's my man. So special teams, they're not special. Okay, Rich Bisaccia, remember, he is the assistant coach right now to Matt LaFleur. So yes, he has a whole mess of things he's got to do. Plus, I was told he gave the main day-to-day things to his understudy. Well, if that's true, Rich, you need to go to your understudy guy and be like, "You're fired. Give me that thing back because this is not good." Like you said in the game summary, really quick, they just looked like they took a step back again, maybe 2 steps back. So I didn't really like that. And it was just really disheartening because I'm like, guys, we can't play like this in the regular season. We are going to lose games like we did couple 2-3 years ago where we lost games because of special teams, block kicks, crappy punting, crappy coverage, penalties, on and on and on and on. And you're right. Toure was like, you saw him running out there and he's like, well, I'll go here. Like he literally was just going, well, I got one place to
He was
go.
running for his
I guess I
life.
go
He had
there.
4 or 5 guys
Yeah.
after him. He's like he's just
Yeah. And
survival at that point, but he
yeah,
made
yeah.
really quick, good decisions.
You may, right. Yeah.
I'm going
And I
here,
think
I'm
that,
going there, and I'm just gonna run my
right.
behind
I'm just
off.
going. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, okay. So we're back to where we started special teams. Now, hopefully, Seahawks, we play, I believe, Saturday. We'll get this back because we need a good showing on Saturday, especially Jordan Love. Again, I loved what he did when he was moving the ball down the field, and that pass, the Jaden Reed, was like they've been doing it for past 3-4 years. It was like Devontae Adams and Rodgers. That was a great pass. It was just perfect. I love Jaden Reed. I think he can break in to be a starter because he has confidence coming out of every place of his body. And I love that. But again, take a breath, people. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. The other thing I didn't like with our receivers, and I didn't add this here, but just talking about receivers. Now, I don't know this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andy. I know New England has a great defense. They're great, have a great coach. So, yeah, I get it. But we weren't getting separation on that Romeo Dobbs catch. That again, that was in the bucket, and Romeo Dobbs had to like put his foot down, drag his other foot just to make a catch, which again was contested. The Jaden Reed catch, dropped that in the bucket, had to make a contested catch. There was really no, maybe down in the second half a little bit because I rewatched the game a little bit, but that's with second or third stringers where you saw Packer receivers get open, have some space, and be able to make a play. So that concerns me because if we cannot do that consistently to give Jordan Love a decent window to throw into, I'm sorry, he's going to throw interceptions. There's nothing you can do about it. If the guy's covering him and he is just, he's on him like glue, man. How are you going to get that ball in there? You have to throw a perfect pass. And that's really hard. So, and I'll let you come back to this, Andy, if you want to. So my next thing is what's going on with our center? What that used to be the strength of our offensive line. We used to have great centers. Even the backup center was decent. Now all of a sudden it's like, huh? they held up well against this, like you said, a stout New England defense and a really nice defensive line. But it just seems like there's something not right. Either there's something going on that the Packers are not telling us, which again, that's their right not to tell us, or we're gonna see Zach Tom be our center in there, and everybody's gonna go, "What happened to Josh Myers?" And we're gonna be like, "Well, he got traded." And that's something we were gonna talk about here later on in the podcast episode. So, Andy, anything to add to
Yep. So a
that?
couple of things actually. With the
Yeah.
it's not really a wide receiver, but our rookie tight end Luke Musgrave, he's gotten
Mm.
wide open a few times.
Well, that's
So
true. That's true.
from that
Yeah, that's true.
standpoint, he's not one of our wide receivers. So I will add that.
But
And
yeah,
we've talked about this before, and yeah, he's been playing great. He's actually
mm,
been blocking really well. And
yeah,
yeah, running really good routes and getting open. So now you just got to get on the ball, right?
yeah.
The second thing I wanted to
Mm,
talk about just briefly when you talked about, and you brought it up about the defensive tackles, how long has it been and this and that? There was a
mm.
name that came to mind. I know he didn't play for the Packers. I think he played for the Bengals. And the reason I bring him up is because a lot of Packer fans will remember him because he played at Wisconsin. So you had Tim Krumrie,
Tim
who
Cromrye.
played, I believe, for the Bengals, and he was a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
His
Ooh,
career was cut short. He messed up his leg. I think he broke it in several places or whatever the
yeah,
deal was.
yeah.
And he
Hmm.
was a surefire Hall of Famer.
Easily.
And unfortunately, his career got cut short. The reason I bring him up is why can't the Packers, somebody from their staff, get on the highway or get on a road and drive to Camp Randall and watch these guys? We had both Watt brothers, okay, playing in our state, and we
That's
don't
true.
draft either one. And we had an opportunity to draft
Mhm,
these guys, John.
mhm.
Especially, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sure Tim Crumry, because we were drafting so high at the time. Because
Yeah,
that's got to be in the
yeah, yeah.
80s that I'm talking about this. I didn't
Correct. Yes,
look
that
at
is
his
correct.
stats or whatever, but that's what popped in my head. I knew you were talking about Green Bay players, but nobody popped in my head for that. But as soon as you mentioned that,
Exactly.
talking about guys
My
that just
point.
would just be awesome, that you're just like, holy cow,
Mm,
he's taking on 2, 3 guys, and it
mhm.
doesn't matter. A total
Yeah, yeah.
game wrecker. And and the only reason I
Absolutely.
bring up the Watt brothers again, it just irks me, that
I hear you.
that we didn't draft either one,
I
but
hear you.
or even get them in free agency. Although we would have, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay,
That was,
yeah,
okay. So,
we're gonna move on.
Packer Blitz fans, I know you're going like, "Yeah, why didn't we?" Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so
So, let's go
yep.
ahead.
So let's talk about some of the preseason game, the second game, our studs, buds, and duds. And then
That's buds
we're
and
gonna
duds.
talk very briefly about the Packers Blitz players of the game. I think a lot of you, when we talk about some of these players, especially the studs, you'll figure out who our Packers Blitz players of the game are. So first, we're going to talk about the studs. We're going to keep it positive. And the first person I want to mention was outside linebacker Kingsley Enagbare. He was very
Alright.
athletic, multi-dimensional with a full repertoire of pass rush moves and always wreaking havoc. He was a beast. So he's basically taking the place of Rashawn Gary, and he was playing pretty darn well. I just
Mhm.
popped up on my phone a few hours ago. His PFF grade, his Pro Football Focus grade, or PFF for short, was 96.4, which is pretty much
Wow.
perfect because the most you can score is 100.
Yeah. Wow.
96.4, John. And
Mm.
he also earned some top special teams grades. He's in the top 2 or 3 in that. So he plays special teams as well and did a great job with that. So pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Defensive lineman Karl Brooks, we just talked about him.
Go
uh,
Brooks.
he had actually the 10th most sacks in college football in 2022, I believe. And he spent a lot of time in the New England backfield during run plays and pass plays. And I know his stat line didn't look super great, but he was a force. He delivered 2 pressures and a tackle for loss. His one of his sacks, by the way, John, was eliminated because of a penalty. So he actually did have a sack. So that's why his stat line didn't look very good, and he was all over the field. If anybody goes back and rewatches that game, which personally I'm not going to do it because I watch every second of it, but if you go back and watch it and then hone in, just watch him. He was a force. His PFF grade, I believe, was second best to Kingsley, and he had an 80. John? 0.4 PFF grade. Sorry, our power just went out for a second. Everything shut down. I'm like, but we're still good. All right. Power surge. All my lights went off and then it came right back on. Okay. Moving on. So that's how great. He's so powerful the power goes out. Yeah, so he had an 80.4 PFF grade, which was second best on the team. And then the next person that was a stud, absolute stud, was Rasheed Walker. I hadn't put him in, and I decided to because his PFF grade was 78.9. He started at left tackle for David Bakhtiari and was terrific. He didn't allow a pressure, which I didn't realize, and earned the team's second best run blocking grade. He has jumped Yosh Nijman on the depth chart at left tackle, and it is now probable that he's David Bakhtiari's primary backup. So pretty awesome, right, John? So yeah, I mentioned one of our offensive linemen, which I should. So I was like, I didn't have anybody in there from the line. I was like, wait a minute, somebody was a stud because that line did awesome. So I put Rasheed in there. So great job, Rasheed. And then, of course, again, running back Emmanuel Wilson, speedy, powerful, dragging tacklers all over the field, breaking tackles, and exhausted from all of the carries. John, the film guys clocked him at just under 22 miles an hour last week against the Bengals, and that's fast, really fast.
That's really fast.
So that's pretty awesome. And then kicker Anders Carlson, we had to mention him. Probably people were wondering how did he do. He did just fine. He made a 52-yard field goal, I think, just before halftime, and made both of his extra points. So he was perfect. So great job, Anders. They will not probably be getting another kicker into camp, so that's a good thing. If he keeps it up, yeah, that's true. That's very true. And now we're going to talk about the buds. And the thing is, Packers fans out there, Packer Blitz fans, people all over the world, people in the United States, you're probably wondering, what does buds mean? And for me, it's kind of like somebody that's solid, steady, and dependable. So wide receiver Grant DeBose, nice route runner and great hands. Wide receiver Malik the Goon Heath, ditto. Same thing. And Malik did a really good job. He was having a really good second half. He was about the only guy that was playing because I think Grant went down with a hamstring injury.
Correct.
So they were throwing him the ball a lot. So he probably would have ended up with a better game than even Grant had. So I just wanted to mention him as well. I just like his nickname. That everybody's kind of giving him the Goon. So yeah, he does some of the dirty work, and a lot of their wide receivers take pride in making blocks, and that's what he does. So he gets in the fray, so to speak, right? And then John mentioned it before, with Jordan Love. Jordan Love had a pretty good game. So did Sean Clifford. They were both rated pretty much neck and neck with PFF. I think they had an 80 point whatever rating. Really good rating. Right. He really looks good, poised in the pocket, delivers a nice ball, and made better decisions than the pass game. So in this game, he made really good decisions. I did want to also mention Patrick Taylor. He may not make the club. because they may only keep 2 running backs anyway, but they've done pretty much everything they can ask of him. He's
Yep.
one of their
Oh, yeah.
core special teams player, but he's also a running back who does everything that's asked of him. Make a block,
Yeah.
go out and catch a ball, get a 4 or 5 yard run. He's very steady. So that's why I picked him. He's not flashy.
No.
Probably not even as flashy as Wilson is, but he definitely, deserves a spot on the roster. The question will be, are they going to give it to him? So
I don't know.
we'll see on that. So veteran player, hopefully, we'll see. They aren't going to keep 4 running backs.
No.
And they might not even keep 3. So if they are going to keep 3, it's really probably down to him and Wilson, I would assume. But we'll see. And then the last person that was a bud was defensive tackle Colby Wooden, who I know John really likes too. He was taking up blockers a lot on purpose to free up Brooks up the middle. So he would usually come across and take out a couple guys. And then Brooks would come around him and just be, wide open to go after the quarterback. But the thing was, Brooks did a nice job of disrupting the plays. He wasn't always just going right at the quarterback. He would kind of you could tell that he was being aggressive, but not too aggressive, where he was trying to bat down balls. And if the quarterback made a mistake, one bad decision, he was going to, just level them type thing. Right. So, so defensive tackle, Colby Wooden, great job. Now the duds. So, John, before we move on, was there anything you wanted to add on the studs or the duds? Or sorry, the buds?
I'll add.
Before we get to the duds.
I'll add them after you're done.
Okay. So the duds, I've got. We already talked about Josh Myers. He's going to need a masseuse. He's going to have some masseuse work to work out all the kinks out of his neck from looking over his shoulder. That's all I'm going to say on that. Then the other person, Jason DeGuara, I'm not a fan of. And everybody knows this by now. He's a fullback who cannot block.
Right.
He's Bubba Franks 2.0.
Yep.
He gets hit and tackled right away. I think there was a third down play. It might have been a fourth down play. I think it was a third down play.
No,
he only had to pick up a yard, maybe 2 yards, and his route. He ran it so that he didn't already get. He wasn't going the right direction where he was turning up field. He didn't run. I just don't think he ran a very good route. And then he got stopped short. Yeah. And he just went right down. So
went right down.
Yep. So anyway, those are my duds. So,
right.
John.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything was awesome. Great job. But I got some more duds. And I don't mean to be negative, Packer fans. You name most of them, but I would. Shamir Jean Charles.
Yep.
Dude. Oh, you have a bad night. Special teams holding, bad in coverage. He made some other mistakes. I don't know if the dude just didn't show up or if the pressure's on him and he just folds, and just, I don't know what to tell you. But also the 11 penalties. Come on, man. That's what I give a dud to, that was ridiculous. You can't win any game. I don't care who you are with 11 penalties, with maybe the exception of the Chiefs. But still, you're putting yourself in a big hole come to the regular season if you have 11 penalties. Because it took away a sack. It took away some pretty decent runs by Toure. It took away some other things that you were just like, what is going on? So anyway, hey, I want to do this one, if that's okay. Packers Blitz, players of the game. Is that okay? I'm going to read this one.
Yeah, before you do that, John, Shamar, I think he was a 7th round pick from the previous year. So he's not, I don't know if I'd even call him a veteran at this point, but he has been on the roster or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so you would just think some of our 7th round picks are playing better than him. So we talked about Carrington Valentine. He didn't have as good of a game this time, but he was always right near the ball and trying to make
Yeah.
plays. So got to
Yes.
give him credit for that. I mean, he did have a not a very good penalty on one of the pass
Mhm.
plays or whatnot. I think that actually negated one of Karl Brooks's sacks. But
Yes, it was. Yes, it did.
I just going off of memory, which isn't always a good thing. But yeah, Shamar needs to step up his game. They've got too
That's
much
better.
talent.
Yeah.
I really think he's one of the guys that's unfortunately gonna end up getting cut, but
Well, we'll see.
we'll see.
So, Packers Blitz players of the game. So, Andy, actually, why don't you read yours and I'll read mine? How's that sound? So,
Okay.
Andy,
Yeah,
what is your Packers
yep, our
Blitz?
the new Packers starting left tackle and former
Hmm.
7th round pick from last year. I think he was from Penn State. I think I'm
Yeah,
right on that. So
I
Rasheed
could look it up.
Walker, I picked
Yep.
him. I changed it. I was going to give it to Wilson again, but Rasheed
No,
actually got graded higher, and I thought he had just a phenomenal game. Left tackle is one of the hardest positions, if not the hardest position to play in the NFL. It
mhm,
just is, and so he did a great job. And I didn't realize how good of a job he did till I read some of the articles I did today. So I picked him because it's good to pick an offensive lineman every once in a while for player of
sure.
the game. So I did. And then this was easy. The edge rusher, Kingsley and Enigbare, we already talked about how great a game he had. Didn't play many series or snaps, but man, did he made an impression right away. Just
Oh,
a
yeah.
great player. And he looks really, really good. He may not end up starting for the Packers, but I hope they're playing him quite a bit and trying to get him in there and rotate him in. So yeah, real deal. So John,
Absolutely.
which ones were yours then?
Yeah, so you know my first one. Come on, Packer Blitz fans. You know it's Karl Brooks. I think he did a phenomenal job. I think you can still get him in there during the regular season. You know, I would love to see him opposite Rashid. Not Rashid. What am I dropping his name here? I always go Rashid. You said
We talking
Rashid.
about Wooden?
Rashawn Gary.
Oh,
No,
Rashawn
Rashawn
Gary.
Gary.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
so I would love to see Brooks and Rashawn Gary and see what would happen. Because Rashawn Gary, you know, once he gets his, feet underneath him with being out a little bit, man, he's gonna be a force again. And it's gonna be really hard to keep those guys out. And I think they have a nice mixture now. We'll see. It comes down to Joe Barry and his coaching. So anyway, and then my so that's my defensive Packers Blitz player of the game, and now my offensive player of the game. And I give it to Jaden Reed, just
Good
because I
choice.
think he just looks to me the part. Now again, like I said, he's a rookie. We'll see, but he just ran that really nice route, made a really nice catch, contested catch, um, and hey, I think there's a great upside for him. I don't think he's going to start right away, but with our youth at receiver, you don't know, right? Because LaFleur might decide, hey, let's give this guy a chance any way we can. So that's it for our Packers Blitz players of the game. Let's play a game.
Yep.
Okay, it's called "If We Were Packers GM." Now
Yep.
let me start first.
Take it away, John.
Andy, for the last time, I am not trading Bakhtiari. Well, yet.
Yep.
I don't know if you heard it. He had this press conference after one of the training camps, and he just walked up to the podium and he went, some guy from Packers Wire, which is owned by USA Today, by the way, said, just raised his hand. He's about to get out. What's with Bakhtiari? See to trade him. And Gutekunst just kind of lost his temper and went, I'm not trading him. Don't even ask that question.
I loved it, actually. That was awesome.
And I was just like, woo, Goody, you're fired up, pal. But one of the things I want to talk about here that Andy and I have brought up in the past, and Andy, before you get to you have a little more details. Mine is a little more like, well, maybe we should do this, maybe, help people out here. So no, by the way, Bakhtiari, if we traded him, the only way I'm trading him, if I'm Packers GM, is for a first round pick. The Jets aren't giving us a first round pick for Bakhtiari. That's not going to happen. The other reason I'm not trading him is, well, we're only going to save 1.8 mil if we trade him. And then we're on the hook for all this dead cap money, which, come on. So unless the Jets are going to come to us, by the way, I'm watching the Hard Knocks, and the Jets offensive line as they stand right now are going to get Rodgers killed. They are horrible. And you see it in Hard Knocks where, Saleh, whatever the head coach's name of the Jets, is like, he's worried. You can see he's worried. He's like, we better fix this. Hey, call the Packers. And I think that's what Gutekunst was like, no, we're not trading them. Don't give them more stuff. Like, we need to keep our stuff. Oh, anyway, but the other thing I wanted to say is I really wanted Packers to bring in a veteran quarterback. Something like, in the movie Bo Durham, get like Kevin Costner, get a guy like him where he comes in, he's all over Jordan Love's case, and he's like, hey, don't do this and don't do that, and don't say this and don't, and just be on his butt and kind of kick the crap out of him. The only reason I say that is because I love Tom Clements. But he's not in touch, right? You need someone to come in there who's been a veteran. I don't know who this guy could be, but just come in. He knows he might play a little bit, but just, you got two young quarterbacks. He can come in and be like, okay, guys, this is how we conduct ourselves. This is how we get ready. This is how we prepare ourselves. You don't have, mildew on your shower shoes, flip flops or whatever. Like a Bo Durham, like that whole Kevin Costner thing. That was his whole thing. And I think that might help Jordan Love to relax a little bit, and for him just to have someone he can turn to, like he did with Aaron Rodgers, to be like, hey, how do you do this? And how's this work? And because it's going to take some time. So that was me. That was my spiel. Andy, if you want to get into your more detail, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so if I were Packers GM, the first move I would make would be to move Rasul Douglas to safety.
Ooh, I like
Brian Gutekunst has even said as much, even way back at the NFL Combine earlier this year. Because of our depth at cornerback, that allows that move to happen. And you got to put the best players out there that you possibly can. And they already targeted Rasul, that he's able to switch to safety. Very smart, heady player, and hopefully it would be a smooth transition for him. And the best decision that the club could make as far as putting the best team that they could on the football field, and the best team, best defense that they could put out on the field. So that'd be the first thing I would do. And there's been, people could Google this and look this up. There's been a lot of articles to this fact. So it's nothing that is earth shattering that I'm saying here. This is kind of almost like public record that this might happen. So that'd be my first thing I would do, considering how good some of our cornerbacks have looked like. And remember, everybody out there, John, Packer fans, Eric Stokes is coming back too. So what are you going to do then? So you have a lot of really good players that you're going to have to play to see what you got. Because Stokes has not played a whole lot in the last year or so. So got to get him out on the football field somehow. And if you move Rasul, then you can put some of the guys like Carrington Valentine out there as well. So second thing that I would do would be basically Colin Cowherd has made the statement. The offensive line play throughout the NFL has been atrocious. And if that's the case, then what I would do is try to trade some of our O-line depth in this transition year that we have to get valuable draft capital for the 2024 draft. And so what I would do if I were GM, if that's the case, is try to, maybe trade one maybe two of our guys. Now, the thing is, in the NFL, that doesn't happen too easily, but there are some needy teams out there. We don't want these guys to get, where we're cutting them and then they're getting picked up by other teams either. So you got to get some value from them. So basically, you've got David Bakhtiari. Supposedly, he's not going anywhere, which is great. I'm fine with it. It's hard to find really good left tackles, and he's one of the best. You got Eldon Jenkins. You got Zach Tom. You got John Runyon Jr. You got Rasheed Walker, who is actually rated third overall offensive player for the first preseason as well. You've got Josh Nyman still. And again, all those are really good or special players, and all could and should start in the NFL. They are why the Packers have arguably a top 3 offensive line. So you've got those guys. But again, you got a guy like Josh Nyman. He's in a contract year next year, and there's considerable depth at the tackle position. However, his ability to play multiple positions cannot be overstated. The only way that I make a trade is if I can get at least a second or third round pick for him. And I believe you were looking at a second round pick, a second round tender with him anyway. But I don't think a team's going to do that, actually.
No,
but Josh can play right tackle and he can play left tackle occasionally, but I think he's more suited to the right tackle position. But again, I'm not saying trade him. I'm just saying if you get an offer that's too good to refuse, then you think about it. So then you've got players like Sean Ryan, I believe, Luke Tenuta. Luke Tenuta actually looked pretty good last preseason game. He didn't play in this one. Royce Newman, he hasn't looked overly great, but he is a veteran. Kadeem Telford, he's looked pretty good. All these players can probably play in the league, but all of them are probably not going to make our roster. So it's a possibility that none of them make it. And so again, you have to find a way to maybe trade somebody to get some value for them now, if you can. So it's a good thing to have all these really good players on the offensive, line. It's just you aren't going to be able to keep all of them. So they're going to keep 9, maybe 10 of them, and we've got too many, unfortunately, that are pretty good.
Right.
And so again, you got to get some value out of them because once they cut them, it's good. Getting them to the practice squad is not going to be easy. They're going to get scooped up by somebody. That's going to happen. So anyway, the third thing I wanted to mention, and this is kind of my winning philosophy, and this would be my philosophy as GM. Let's not be a poor or mediocre team like during the 1980s. Let's be great with Jordan Love, or pivot immediately and get one of those 4 or 5 quarterbacks in next year's draft. So it's a really good draft for quarterbacks next year. And so if Jordan Love isn't the answer, you're going to find out this season. You can't afford to wait any longer. He's in his 4th season. Either he's got it or he doesn't. The NFL is about winning championships, winning the Super Bowl. Gone are the days that a NFL team can win a title with a subpar, mediocre starter at quarterback. For example, I wasn't even say it. Okay, Joe Flacco, Trent Dilfer. These are Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, by the way. John, you know this. Packer fans out there, football fans out there. Jimmy Garoppolo, he was in the Super Bowl, didn't win it, but he's in the Super Bowl nonetheless. And he almost pulled it off. And that's Jimmy Garoppolo. Seriously? So again, gone are the days that you can have just a subpar quarterback, and you have to have a stud. You have to have a guy that's probably in the top, probably 10 to maybe 12 quarterbacks, usually in the top 10 or higher. So again, you've got to have that if you're going to win Super Bowls. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. So, and then I said the best for last. Cut Josiah DeGuara right now. Cut him immediately. There is no wow factor at all I cannot remember a memorable play that he has had in what, John, 3 years? Has it been 3
Weird.
years?
Yeah.
Time to move on. Let's move forward. Let's not keep making the same mistake by keeping someone on the roster who shouldn't be on it, but just based on a high draft position. Move on. Goody, you made a mistake. Move on. Move
Yeah.
forward. So as GM, cut immediately. So,
Mhm.
so he's a guy, unfortunately, he just doesn't look like an NFL player. He can't play fullback and he can't play tight end. What good is he
Yeah.
to you? He does
Right,
play some
exactly.
special teams. Unless he was the best special teams player that you got on your team, I don't see the value in keeping him on the roster. But that's just me. So those are my thoughts. Any thoughts on that, John?
You're a tough GM. The DeGaro
Uh huh.
family's mad at you now. Cut
Oh
that.
well.
No,
Hey,
it's
GM's got to make tough decisions.
yeah, you guys
You
make some
know,
tough decisions. No, those are really good decisions. Uh, as far as winning, I agree. I mean, because we are no longer the Packers of the 80s. We're just not. We have enjoyed winning for a very, very long time. And we just can't be like trying to think of a team that's been mediocre for a little while that just you kind of like, well, I don't want to say the San Francisco 49ers, but I'm going to say the San Francisco 49ers. So the 49ers have been a team that's always been there. Yes, have been to a recent Super Bowl and everything. But when is the last time they won a Super Bowl? And that would be 1998 or
two.
9.
No, it wasn't. I
Well,
don't know.
it was
It
Steve
was.
Young was their quarterback.
Yeah.
They beat the San Diego Chargers. It was
Yep.
late '90s.
Yep.
Shortly after we won our Super Bowl. Um, but yeah, that's their last one. So it's been a really, really long time. And again, I know you're thinking, well, San Francisco's not mediocre. I mean, they're always been, but they'll get there and they just can't seem to find a way to win. And a lot of people, which teasing, Andy and I will have our Super Bowl picks next week, are saying they're going to be in the Super Bowl this year. And I just don't see it. I just don't see them doing it. And that's why I don't want the Packers to be. I don't want the Packers like they have been really getting close to no. You know what I mean? We have to win. We got to win a Super Bowl with Jordan Love. Is that going to be easy? No, it isn't. But we have to find a way, or like you said, Andy, move on. Like, okay, fine. It's not working. Let's go, because we've
Yeah.
given them enough time.
Yep. If
So,
you're just an okay team, John, you're going
yeah,
to be drafting too high to get
yeah,
really, really good talent anyway.
yeah,
So you might as well just tank and get
yeah,
some really
right.
good players
Yeah,
and
yeah,
rebuild.
yeah.
Tear it all down, build it all back up. So
There's
the
absolutely
key player again is the quarterback. You
is
start
the
with the
quarterback.
quarterback. So
Yep.
yep.
Yeah.
That's the
So,
way of the National Football League now. It's all about offense. It's all about the quarterback. Quarterbacks win you Super Bowls.
yes, they do.
Defenses typically do not.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So now our last little thing here, last little part was an interesting article you found, Andy. So why don't you share that with the Packer Blitz fans?
Well, we actually have a couple more parts, John, but
Oh, okay.
and we're just going to try to keep this under an hour and a half, but because this is our podcast, who knows? Maybe this will be a record for us.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So there was an article last time that pissed me off, and so there's another one that maybe kind of unhappy. So I figured I'd bring it up. So basically, there was an article from Alex Hogler of TotalProSports.com.
Okay.
And basically, he went into the final offseason grades for all the 32 NFL teams, in particular the Packers. And his grade for the Packers was a D.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go through why he said we had a D during our offseason. I don't think he's right. And I'm sure, John, you probably don't think he's right. But yeah, he said that it's hard to defend the Aaron Rodgers trade, number one. Didn't think it was a good idea, whatever. Again, we could rebuke that and rip them apart or whatever, but that was his opinion. Second thing was he said the Packers draft was very curious. And that's where his direct words, very curious. The
Okay.
Packers already have enough star power in the front seven of the defense, according to him.
Really?
And then why did they use a first round pick on Lucas Van Ness? And then he talked about the Packers head coach Matt LaFleur rarely uses tight ends in his offense. So why take 2 tight ends in rounds 2 and 3? Some of that kind of makes sense what he's saying. But again, John, as you know, and Packer fans know, our defense is not a top 3 defense anyway.
No.
So star
No.
power in the front 7. I think he was talking about all the draft picks we've used
Yes, I think
on our defense. And our defense actually is more mediocre than we want it to be, especially our run defense. So anyway, NFL fans, Packer fans, make sure that you read the article titled "The Official Final 2023 Offseason Grades for All 32 NFL Teams Revealed." Just read it. It's very interesting article that gives you honest conclusions with deductive reasoning. That doesn't mean that I agree that it's right, especially with regards to the Packers, but that's okay. The article does make you wonder and think. And so read it, draw your own conclusions from it. So, John, do you have any response to this? I'm going to have a response in a second, what I think the Packers offseason grade was. And I'll give my little synopsis on that before we move on.
Okay, cool. So, really, it's one man's opinion. Whether it's right or wrong, it's up for your judgment. But Packer fans know, real Packer fans, especially Packer Blitz fans know, we're in a no-win situation to keep Rodgers. Either he retires, which he said he was 90% going to retire, and we get nothing. Or Rodgers stays a year or two, retires. Jordan Love says, the heck with this, can't blame him, right? And he leaves, and we get nothing. So we know we should have traded Rodgers to Denver a couple years ago. We would have got a king's ransom for him. And, that's what it could have, should have. It's in our past, and we can't do anything about it because Russell Wilson, look at the Seahawks. They're going to be a good team for a while without the draft picks they got for Russell Wilson. So again, okay, I see what he's saying a little bit, but when he talks about tight ends, oh, by the way, where would Patrick Mahomes be without Travis Kelce? He's a tight end, right?
Uh-huh.
And you don't think that Matt LaFleur, come on, it's a copycat league, is gonna go, okay. All we need is one of these tight ends that we drafted, just one of them, to play up to like Travis Kelce. And by the way, 49ers with George Kittle. How would the 49ers be without George Kittle? I don't know. Maybe not so hot. And remember, he was under those coaches in that kind of same tree, if you want to say, where they did use the tight end. So I totally disagree with that. I think LaFleur said, hey, I need a tight end. Okay. And I need a tight end that can stretch the field, because why did we get Jimmy Graham that year? Right. Well, there's no reason to draft Jimmy Graham. He's, done, in my opinion. And then why did we get Mercedes Lewis? Well, I don't know, 2 veteran tight ends who can help, stretch the field and maybe, stretch the end zone and the red zone and help you out here. Come on, so that's stupid. And then really, we don't know what's going to happen next year because Rodgers, if he stays healthy, will get a first round pick. And like you said earlier, we have to use that first round pick for a quarterback one way or another. So my final grade is incomplete because we don't know what's going to happen with Rodgers this year. And we don't know what's going to happen with the tight ends. And we don't know what's going to happen with Jordan Love. Right? We on and on and on. We just don't know. So to me, to give anybody a grade right now, that's incomplete. So, Andy, what is your little synopsis about this.
I will add, John. I mean, LaFleur uses a lot of 2 tight end sets. They
Yeah.
drafted 2 tight ends. It's all good.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, if they
Right.
hit on both tight ends, play both of them. All the
Right.
better. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was
So,
a
yeah, I don't
draft
get
that
that.
actually had some really good tight ends in it. So then, of course, that's the strength of the draft. Well, then you draft some tight
Yeah.
ends.
Oh, just
So
really quickly with Lucas Von Ness, you cannot have enough pass rushers,
no,
you know?
and
Come
it wasn't
on.
like our pass rushing was stellar last year either.
Yeah. Yeah, Rashawn Gary goes out, and what's our pass rush?
Yep,
Nothing. Oh, okay. Well, that's Joe Barry. Should find another way.
exactly. Yeah. So my response to Alex again, he gave us a D, and he's just talking about the offseason, John. So and that grade, I know there's some things still out there, but I would give him a C plus, and this is my reasoning why. And actually, the way it's been going, it's been kind of rising and rising and rising up. But I would give him a C plus, and this is my synopsis right here. I thought that trading A-Rod set in motion a very unclear future for the Packers franchise. Then the Packers organization didn't bring in any veteran players, especially at quarterback, to reassure Packer fans everywhere and stabilize the situation. That immediately dropped the offseason for me to an F. Okay.
Ooh,
Just that not knowing. I want stability. I want to know what's going to happen. So, but, however, I think that the coaching staff and the remaining Packers players have been re-energized by the fresh start, coaching staff, everybody, um, and the potential emergence of Jordan Love. As of today, the 2023 draft looks like it may have been great with a lot of diamonds instead of lumps of coal. The Packers got some draft capital in the A-Rod trade that hopefully will help the team win. Maybe not this year, but in future years. That raised my grade to a C right away, with the plus added on because of what I have seen and heard from training camp and the first 2 preseason games. A lot of good things are happening, John. And so
yeah.
I'm feeling really good about it. So again, that grade is raising up. For me, the off season is before the start of the regular season. So, you know, maybe ask me again in a few weeks. But I think a
Right.
lot of the moves they've made, but you have to admit, John, they didn't really bring in a whole lot of veteran presence,
Yeah.
and they got rid of
Right
a lot
back.
of guys. I mean, they got rid of our
Yes.
kicker, they got rid of our tight end, and they got rid of Aaron Rodgers. That was 3 guys that had been with the club for a while, for a long while, for a couple of them, 15 years or more, 2 of them. And you've
Yes.
lost some of that veteran presence, and then you don't replace them.
Mhm.
You can't replace them too easily, but at least you got to try. And they do not dip into the free agent market, as everybody knows, typically. And they
No.
didn't this year again. So again, who are the veterans? Who's the veteran leadership? You know, and so that's why initially I was like, oh boy, but I'm feeling reassured a little bit the last few weeks.
Yeah,
So,
all right.
okay. So moving on, John.
Yes,
Okay.
shout outs.
Yeah. Packers Blitz shout outs. Former longtime Milwaukee Bucks head coach and NBA Hall of Famer Don Nelson did a really good deed. He opened up his Maui rental homes to the victims who have been displaced by the fires. The fires on Maui were the deadliest in the United States in more than a century. As of late Sunday, in the community of Lahaina, there were 114 confirmed dead and 1,000 plus still missing. Don Nelson said, and he says, "We're doing the best we can, but we only have space for 24 people. There are thousands of people homeless right now. It's overwhelming," end quote. Nelson is just the latest person from the world of sports to help boxer Floyd Mayweather flew nearly 70 families off of Maui, 70 families, and provided them with hotel rooms, food, clothing, and more last week. Golfer Colin Morikawa pledged to donate $1,000 to relief efforts for each birdie he makes during the PGA Tour's FedEx Cup playoffs, too. By the way, he had 17 birdies last week and 12 so far this week as of 3 p.m. when I was paying attention to the round today in Chicago. But he was still playing. So that's, it's $29,000 so far that he's donated. So that's awesome. Thank you, Colin. It's awesome to see so many people helping others in times of great tragedy and need.
Absolutely.
So second shout out is to Packers GM Brian Gutekunst. He immediately shut down rumors and innuendo regarding the possibility of trading David Bakhtiari to the New York Jets. John already talked about that before. Thank you, Goody. John and I do our best on Packers Blitz to do the same. Straight shooting and no bullshit.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Goody. Thanks to Gabriel Dow, VP of Marketing and Fan Engagement, for getting the 2025 NFL Draft to Green Bay. She has been with the club since 2014, John, and her perseverance really paid off. John and I are really happy that the draft is coming to Green Bay. We got to go to that, John.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
And then this past week, I don't know if he was in for the game on Saturday, but NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell was in Green Bay to praise the Packers organization and convey the excitement that the NFL has that Green Bay is hosting the 2025 NFL Draft.
Yes.
So any comments on those shout outs, or you got any shout outs
really
yourself,
nice people, John? Helping out, people when you can. I mean, that's what we're here for. So, and like Goody, taking the bull by the horns, man.
No kidding.
Sit back
down.
and
None
of this crap of we'll see and maybe and blah. No, just say no, we're not.
End of story.
So shut up.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Yep. So we are now, John, to the end of Packers Blitz, and what we have learned today. We're going to talk about that. First thing we learned, John, Packers fans out there all over the world, in the United States and abroad, running back Emmanuel Wilson deserves to play in the NFL and make a roster. Period.
Yes.
He was the Packers Blitz player of the game last week and a stud this week. Congrats. I just don't know if he'll make the Packers roster. I'm still debating that one. Weren't we going to talk about that next week, though? Maybe I'll have to make it.
We'll talk about it next week.
Okay, we'll have to figure it out. Second thing, Goody invested a lot of draft capital on the interior of the defensive front. That investment has paid off. Wooden and Brooks are the real deal. Second thing we learned today, Packer fans, the Packers may have lost the game, but they won in the trenches with their offensive line play. The line dominated a really good Patriots defensive front seven during that preseason game on Saturday. Fourth thing we learned, the Packers offseason wasn't that bad. I would say that its grade is trending upward with the draft that we had. It's certainly not as poor as a grade of D. If TotalProSports.com can give the Dallas Cowboys an offseason grade of A+, John, then we shouldn't trust the grade that it gave the Pack. By the way, the Cowboys erred in letting their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, go to the LA Chargers, by the way. Not an A+ move. Plus, I think Mike McCarthy, is taking over the play calling again. So good luck with that. Oh, boy. Good luck with that. They have a new offensive coordinator, and he's getting more involved in the offense. I'm sorry, that wasn't the problem. Boy. Kellen Moore was not the problem. So, fifth thing we learned today, Don Nelson is a really caring and good dude. I wish there were more 80-something-year-olds. He's 83, by the way. Wish there were more 80-something-year-olds out there who had the fire and drive to really do something meaningful with their lives. It's really inspiring. And last thing, sixth thing that we learned today. We learned so many things today, but this is the sixth thing that I picked out. The Patriots released a statement on the health status of cornerback Isaiah Bolden. I figured I'd follow up on that. It reads as follows. This is the statement from the Patriots. He had feelings in all of his extremities, but has been taken to a local hospital for further tests and observation. This is kind of the standard fare with that. On Sunday, though, today, Isaiah was released from the hospital and was able to travel back to Foxborough, Massachusetts with his Patriots teammates. And that's great news, isn't it, John?
Yes, great news. Great news. I hope the guy, if he wants to continue to play football, fine. If not, hope he has a great life. So great show, Andy. We learned so much today. Next week, final preseason game against the Seahawks, and Pete Carroll chewing his gum like a cow. Oh,
yep.
God, does that drive me freaking crazy? It's this Saturday at noon, by the way, noon game at Lambeau. So, if you can't watch the game, that's okay because Andy and I will tell you all about it. So next week, we'll do the game summary. We'll do that really quick because we have a long episode again.
I guess.
Because we will have our final predictions for the 2023-2024 NFL season. We'll have division winners for AFC, NFC, of course, playoffs, who's going to be winning the playoffs, and the Super Bowl. So please send us an email, packersblitz80@gmail.com, because tell us not only how we're doing, but also we want to know what you guys think. Who are you going to be your divisional winners, Super Bowl, and everything? And we will put that into here. Listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, iHeart, or wherever you listen to Packers Blitz. We hit subscribe because, again, we love having you guys on, and we need the support because Andy and I are just doing this as two guys, just having a ball and being good friends and love the Packers. So, go Pack Go!
Go Pack Go!
Hi, Andy, love you. Talk to you next week.
Next week.
Later.